Hi, I'm Mike Thompson, coming to you from the OU Innovation Hub Fab Lab. In this video, I'm going to show you how to safely operate our wood lathe. A lathe is used to turn wood. Turning is what you do on a lathe. Lathes are used to make all sorts of things: spindles, bowls, dowels, candlesticks, and pretty much anything round. It spins the workpiece while you hold a shaping tool to cut it. It can be very dangerous though if you aren't careful, so please pay attention. Let's go over some basic terminology first. This lateral crossbar is the bed. It is the backbone of the lathe. This part over here with the motor is the headstock. It's where you control the lathe's speed. This part over here without the motor is the tailstock. It has a movable quill that supports the workpiece from the other end. It can also be used with a chuck and a drill bit, but this bit doesn't move, the wood does. This thing here is the tool rest. It supports your tool and acts as a fulcrum. Each of the three major parts has a locking handle. Pull up to adjust them, and then push it down to lock. You should never have to adjust the headstock though. For a simple demonstration, I'm going to make a spindle out of this 2x4. Now obviously, to start, I'm going to want to get this as close to round as possible. So I'm going to cut it down a bit. So I'll start by cutting it square. Now I'll find the center of each end. This center finder in the tool cabinet will work on square and round stock. Use it to draw two lines 90 degrees apart, and X marks the spot. I'm also going to notch them along these lines to give the centers a good gripping spot. This step is required for very hard wood, but not really for something as soft as this pine. Now this piece is small enough to turn, but you really should take the corners off a square piece because it makes the turning go a lot quicker and smoother. And you should size your pieces so that they're 1/8 to 1/4 inch oversized, and then you can turn them down to the correct dimensions. Now I'll use this mallet, not a hammer, to drive the spur center into my kerf cuts in the wood. Never drive the wood when the spur center is mounted in the headstock. Always drive the spur into the wood, not the wood into the spur. Make sure you have the appropriate center in the tailstock. If you don't, use this rod through the quill to drive it out. I'll be using this live center to make my spindle. The live center here spins because it's got ball bearings in it. Now I'll put this spur center in the lathe headstock and bring the tailstock up close and lock it down. I'll turn the quill handle until the live center is seated firmly in my wood. Then I'll lock the quill with this lever here. Now I'll unlock my tool rest and move it into position. I want to get it so that the tool will be about in the middle of the piece. Adjusting this quickly will come with experience. I want to make sure that my tool rest is clear, so I'll spin the wood a couple of times. I'm also looking to make sure that my tool rest is parallel to the wood. I'll turn the speed down low, then pull the stop knob to start. Make sure this silver toggle switch is in forward so that the front of the piece will be traveling down. There's a chart that will tell you the recommended speed, and you should consult that so that you don't damage anything or get a poor quality part. Now I've got this piece under 2 inches in diameter, and I'm roughing it, so I'm going to set it at 15-20 RPM. I want to change my speed slowly. We have several general purpose tools down here in the holder. I'll start out with this big circular one to rough it out. Make sure that the carbide blade is on top, and it is also marked with a maximum overhang. Your tool rest should be set so that it is not past this line on the tool. Otherwise, your end of the lever might not be long enough for you to maintain control. The lathe could grab it and fling it into the air, or into your face. Keep the tool on the tool rest. Use your left hand, most likely, to gently guide it while you provide leverage with the other hand. Both hands like this all the time. I'm looking through the top edge of the workpiece occasionally to see the shape I'm making. I'm also looking to see if I've got it round yet. If I see it flickering, then I know it's not round yet. Now once I've got it roughed out, I'll switch tools to add some details. And then I'll use this small gouge to create a cove. And I'll put a bead over here. I'll use this small skew here to make a V. Never start at the end of a piece. Start somewhere else and work your way towards the end. And now I'll hit it with some 220 grit sandpaper to smooth it out. It doesn't take much to smooth this out because of the high RPM. And I'll turn it off. I'll unlock the quill here and back it out. Now I'll remove my awesome spindle, and I'm going to take it over to the saw and trim off the ends. We also have this 4-jaw Nova chuck and several types of jaws for it to turn different things. This type of chuck can be configured to hold either the inside or the outside of a piece. For bowl turning, you'd use these short jaws that are shown here. The jaws with the rubber grips just screw into place and are fully adjustable, but are limited to 800 RPMs as indicated here on the plate. To turn a bowl, for instance, you'd screw your blank to the faceplate. Then you'd screw the faceplate onto the spindle while holding the spindle lock button. We need to shape a foot so the Nova chuck can grab on, so we'll orient the tool rest at 90 degrees to the lathe bed. The idea is to make a small undercut hollow so that the 4 jaws can expand into it. Hold it up there to get an idea of how big your little hollow foot needs to be. Okay. Then you can rough it out with the circular gouge and then make that undercut in the edges with the small skew. Without this undercut, the wood will slip off the chuck. And you can see how the chuck will fit nicely. So it's time to remove the faceplate and thread the Nova chuck into place. And make sure to tighten the little set screw. Then use the large chuck key to expand the 4 jaws into the foot that you just made. An alternative to this is to glue a scrap block to the base of your bowl blank and then screw that into the faceplate instead of cutting a foot like this. Then you can position the tool rest wherever you need it to work on your bowl. And those are the basics of using the wood lathe. It's an extremely useful tool, and you can make all sorts of things with it. I'll cover additional techniques and projects in a future video. If you're unsure, always ask. Go ahead and subscribe if you haven't already. I'm Mike Thompson, coming to you from the OU Innovation Hub Fab Lab. And what do you want to make?